Today, we're talking about the power of teams. We are going to use the framework of Emergenetics, which is a very powerful profile that helps us understand the way that individuals think and behave as a part of a team. We're going to use that model as a framework today to process a real world scenario with a leader who's forming a new team. Now, why are teams important in the first place? Did you know that 83% of people are on a team to get work done? Seems obvious, right? We all feel like we spend a lot of time in teams, but 64% of those people are on more than one team, and most of those teams aren't even represented on an org chart. So each individual has an opportunity to choose which team they want to prioritize work for. So, how do you make sure that they're prioritizing your team's work? The way to do that is to know them at their best and help design work around them. Those statistics came from an article, Harvard Business Review article written by Marcus Buckingham and Ashley Goodall. Highly recommend that you spend some time with that if you care at all about teams. So today I'm going to represent the analytical thinking preference of the Emergenetics model and talk about what I need as an analytical thinker as a part of the team. My friend Julie is going to represent the structural thinking preference. Susan is going to stand in as social, and Judy's here to be our conceptual thinker. So as a part of a team, as an analytical thinker, the first thing I'm thinking about is how can we divide and conquer this work? So we're all gathered here for a reason. What is the most efficient way that we can divide and conquer the work that's in front of us? What is everyone's responsibilities? What are their job titles? How are we making decisions? I want to know the why and how we're actually going to be propelled forward as an analytical thinker. Julie, what about structured thinkers?
Well, they really want to know how it's going to get done. Someone with a structural preference or who's driven by the structure will want to know guidelines and systems and want to know who's responsible for what. Especially as we're talking about taking on a big project, it's really important for people to have clear expectations. So a process has been created. It's probably sequential in order because those with a structural preference really love the bullet points, the numbered lists, and they want to know what has been done before because that tends to drive them as they're organizing and putting things into place. Susan, what do people do from a social perspective?
Folks that have a social thinking preference are really wondering who's going to be involved, how are we going to build consensus among the folks that are involved. They're interested in being included, connecting, and collaborating. They enjoy making a difference and really are energized by working with and through other people. So the social thinking preference is all about the who's on the team, who am I working with, how are we going to share dialogue and come to new ideas together. That will be very important to the social thinking preference. Judy, what can you tell us about the conceptual?
Well, conceptuals are vision driven. So they're all about the what ifs and about connecting whatever it is that you're doing to the bigger picture. So what if we approached it this way? What might happen? What if we approached it that way? What might happen? So vision driven and thinking about the ways to brainstorm other ways to do what needs to be done. So those with the conceptual are going to want to look and explore new options. What else could we do in addition to what we're talking about here? They want to know that experimentation is okay. What if we tried this new tool to see if we can get to our objectives? So conceptuals have a lot of energy around change for the good in order to get to that vision that needs to be reached.
I love that. I love that. One of the things that unites each of us that you see here is our desire to see this tool practically applied. So we're all advanced emergenetics associates. We use this tool in our practice and we know what a difference it can make. So I'm really excited today to introduce one of my clients. Liz Maffey is joining us. Liz, do you want to turn your video on and we'll say hello? Liz is going to give us an idea of what is going on with her team. So Liz's team is newly formed and is working on bringing together some unique systems. So it presents its own unique set of challenges. So Liz, tell us about what's going on with your teams.
So with my current team, we started working on a new CRM system for our recruiting and sales floor. And we had just finished getting everything kind of hammered out, and we were preparing for implementation. And our company announced that we would be merging with another agency and that they were also going to be using Bullhorn, but they had not started planning or implementing anything yet. So I was merged with about 6 other people. So half of the team was Cincinnati, half was the Omaha team. And we had to figure out how to work together and bring not only the 2 teams together, but 2 totally separate companies and make sure everything worked together in that one CRM.
So you have teams upon teams upon teams
Yes.
happening in that situation, So anytime you're forming a team, the need for clarity is really important, right? Clarity, alignment, and a way to develop a sense of trust. And so we use Emergenetics as a way to do that. So Liz, if I were to just kind of hone in on the piece of the team that's related to the project, outside of all of the other teams, let's focus on the small team related to the project. As you're starting that project, if I'm a member of your team as an analytical thinker, I want to know the why. Why am I here? Why are we doing this? What is our purpose? And how did we get to the decision to form the team and to take on the project in the first place? Right. So I'm constantly going to be interested in what's the data tell us? What are the benefits of us coming together? How are we going to measure what success looks like? How are we going to know how we're making progress along the way? So as you're bringing together this new team, if you can be thinking about me as an analytical thinker, I really want to know the why. Julie, what does the structured thinker want to know?
The structured thinker, again, is interested in the how. So Liz, for your team, people on your team who have a structural preference, they're going to want to know as much detail. They're interested in the data, just as Stephanie explained as well, but from a very detailed perspective. So they want to know timelines, they want to know their responsibilities, they want to know their deadlines, they want to know that path, what's coming up. And they ideally want to know step by step by step and each deadline that you're going to meet. So they have that really comprehensive, detailed schedule and timeline. And they want to know, well, what happens if there's a bump in the road? Or what if there's some uncertainties? What is our process if there's a mistake, if something shuts down? What do we do in that manner, in those instances? And one of the key things to remember with them is to encourage your people with a structural preference. They're your implementer. They're energized when they can execute on that plan. You also want to remind them that although what's been done before is really powerful and useful for you to know, you also want them to be open-minded about doing something perhaps in a different way. So getting them engaged in the beginning that you want to approach things from an open mind and see what else can be done. Susan, what do you think those from the social preference would be thinking about?
Well, those members on your team, Liz, with the social thinking preference are going to want to know everything about the who and who's on the team. What are their strengths? What are my strengths that I can bring to the team to offer value? They want to know how they're going to be able to be engaged. So will we have weekly meetings? Will we have monthly meetings? Opportunities for community building with the team. Can we go out and do a service project together to get to know one another better? And then maybe feature that in the company newsletter with pictures of all of us. They're very interested in the who, and definitely the opportunities to connect and collaborate and work together. I would say providing lots of opportunity for shared dialogue around producing deliverables. So for example, bringing the two teams you're integrating together to work on a team alignment map that lays out the new vision and direction and connecting mechanisms for the integrated team. So again, the social thinking preference is all about the who. How are we going to be helpful to one another? How can we engage, and how often can we engage? And how do we build a community out of this new integrated team? Judy, how about telling us a little bit about the conceptual?
Absolutely. So in addition to connecting with people, the conceptual is all about the vision. So the conceptuals want to connect with the bigger picture. What are we trying to achieve? How are we going to get there? They are also quite visual. So helping see things in addition to just hearing things in meetings. So for example, if you're having a team meeting, instead of just having conversation and talking, add a visual element to it, draw as you go, ask people to map it out. Also, the conceptuals get really energized when they can come up with new ideas. So if there is a challenge that you can pose to the group to say, here's a challenge we need to overcome, and break the team into a couple of smaller teams and say, brainstorm as many ideas as you can come up with, the conceptuals will go wild for that. Conceptuals also like to share opportunities as they arise. So as you're going through that structured timeline, as Julie spoke about, that structure's love, you might want to pause at some points of that timeline to say, okay, here's where we are. It looks like there's a new opportunity here. How might we approach that? And lean into your folks who have a conceptual mindset or preference to get some new ideas from them. So the conceptuals really want to reach that vision and connect and understand that what they're doing is contributing to that end game or that end goal.
Awesome. That's awesome. Liz, I know that you've completed your Emergenetics profile. Would you mind to share with us what your thinking preferences were?
Yes. So I am trimodal. My higher percentage, my preference is definitely structural. And my lowest is social with 12%. So I'm very much aligned with green, blue, and yellow.
Green, blue, and yellow. So most of us are wired very uniquely, right? So Liz is trimodal, probably connected with, 3 of the 4 of us in the way that we were talking about showing up as a team, but maybe not as much with what Susan was saying. And the same is true for every individual, right? We're going to bring our natural communication styles to the way that we approach teams. So thinking through what each thinking attribute needs is really important to everybody. Now, Liz has got 3 of the 4 covered, so she's in good shape. But being able to think through what does each person here really need to be a part of the team is really important. Now, the thing that we didn't talk about today, because we could spend another hour talking about it, are all of the behaviors that go along with each individual's profiles. So in addition to the way that we think about teams, our level of expressiveness, how we show up to the world, our level of assertiveness, how we advance our thoughts and feelings, and our level of flexibility all also play into how we approach a team. And that's why teams are complex, right? That's why teams can be challenging to manage. That's why teams are also so important, because when you harness all of this uniqueness and all of the strengths that these people bring, you really can get to a place where you can implement the project that Liz is talking about in a very successful way, where you can create a community, you can create harmony, and you can achieve your business objectives. And that's really what using this tool is all about. If you can apply each of these thinking attributes to the way that you run your teams, then your teams will be the ones that people will choose to work on. Thanks everybody for being with us today.